All right. Let's call this meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. We're going to start with a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Sunshine law noted. In accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, public meetings may be held in person or by means of communication equipment to include streaming services and other online meeting platforms. This meeting is being held in person and through the Zoom meeting platform, being broadcast from Borough Hall, 748 River Road, Fairhaven, New Jersey. Public participation for this regular council meeting of December 18th, 2023 is available by call-in phone number or through web conference Zoom. Members of the public will be on mute until it is time for questions or comments, which will be announced. At that time, the public has the opportunity to question or comment by phone or through Zoom by the raise hand button and will be called on at the appropriate time. Notice of this meeting was included in a schedule of meetings which was adopted by resolution number 2023-13 and sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, and the Star Ledger on January 6, 2023. Post on the borough website, the bulletin board in the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as required under the statute. With adequate notice having been given, the borough clerk is directed to include this statement in the minutes of this meeting. Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Council members Cole. Here. Bowie. Here. Hodge. Here. Barbera.
Here.
Net. Rodriguez.
Here. Okay, I would like to start off with a proclamation honoring Councilman Rodriguez for what has been just an incredible run here in supporting the borough of Fairhaven in a volunteer role. And I think we all owe you a debt of gratitude for not only the time that you spend, but I think your kindness, your sincerity, your commitment, and I just think the way that you've gone about your role from a leadership standpoint, I can speak probably on behalf of your kids. I don't know if they're here, but in saying that you're showing the next leaders of tomorrow the way that this should look like. So going back to that first time we met on your porch with the iced tea, I hope maybe this time of the week to return the favor on my porch to close it out. But I'd like to read this on your behalf, and then we're going to have the scouts and Dan Ramirez is going to come up, Dave Paolo, and we can discuss what they have in store for you as well. All right, so this reads, whereas Christopher Rodriguez volunteered in many capacities and was appointed to fill a council member vacancy on January 31st, 2017, and sworn in for a full council term on January 2nd, 2018. And whereas Councilman Rodriguez has been a vital part of the community, offering his time and talent on various boards and commissions, scout leader, and a member of the Borough Council. Whereas during his 7-year tenure on council, Councilman Rodriguez has served as council president, chairman of the finance committee, helping to maintain a double A+ bond rating and liaison to various boards and commissions. And whereas the Borough of Fairhaven governing body, borough staff, boards and commissions, and volunteers will miss the logic, wisdom, and invaluable experience Christopher Rodriguez has contributed to everything he has been involved with. And whereas very few people realize what a tremendous imposition serving on council is in one's personal life. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Borough Council of the Borough of Fairhaven that extends its deep appreciation and gratitude to Councilman Rodriguez for his selfless public service to help make Fairhaven a great place to live, and wishes him and his family many years of health and happiness.
I have a couple of remarks, but is there something else going on, or should I wait?
Dan, do you want to present now? Yeah, that sounds good.
Good evening, everyone. Dan Ramirez, McCarter Avenue. It has been my distinct pleasure to serve with Chris as a Scoutmaster in Fairhaven Troop 125 for nearly as many years as he served on the Borough Council. We have one of our scouts here, Owen Swinney, who would like to read our own proclamation recognizing Chris's efforts.
Proclamation honoring Councilman Christopher Rodriguez. Whereas Christopher Rodriguez has served as Fairhaven Troop 125B Scoutmaster and Fairhaven Troop 125G Assistant Scoutmaster and founding member since December 2020. And whereas Scoutmaster Rodriguez has served as counselor for the following Scout merit badges: camping, citizenship in the world, communication, entrepreneurship, first aid, home repairs, and personal management. And whereas Scoutmaster Rodriguez has served as a den leader for PAC 127 from 2015 to 2020. And whereas Scoutmaster Rodriguez attained the rank of Eagle Scout and is a member of the Order of the Arrow in good standing. Whereas Councilman Rodriguez has always been a friend to the public and a dedicated mentor to the youth of the community, most notably the Scouts of Fairhaven Troop 125. Now, therefore be it resolved by the Fairhaven Troop 125 that it recognizes the tireless efforts of Scoutmaster Rodriguez to help shape the youth of Fairhaven to achieve a greater appreciation for public service and prepare them as future leaders. Troop 125 hereby sets its hands on this 18th day of December, 2023.
If I may, Mayor, we have a small gift to present Councilman Rodriguez, and I will call upon his son Jack to present. Wow. To show the governing body and the mayor with me. In choosing
in the box.
in choosing a gift, an appropriate gift, we naturally wanted to pick something that would symbolize not only his service as a Scoutmaster, but also as a member of the governing body. Of course, the knife is a very symbolic tool for the Scouts, which they all have to learn to use properly, safely. But we also thought that, like a good knife, good public servants are not just born, they're made, forged through the heat and fury of executive session, shaped through the hammer and anvil of public need, and honed through the fiction of the whetstone of public service. Would that all our elected leaders would be as polished and sharp as Chris Rodriguez.
How much time do I have? Get out of here on time here. I did prepare a couple of words. Maybe I'll face the owl. I'm not really sure how to do this. Maybe I'll stand. Yes. I don't know if the owl will pick me up or not. This is a little bittersweet. It's been a long road. As the mayor mentioned, it's been maybe I won't do that. That's really weird. Is this gonna work? Okay, that was ridiculous. Let me start over. Just wanna, I did put a couple of remarks together, but I'm not gonna read from it. I'm gonna just do this from the heart. I just want to thank all of you for being here tonight. I want to thank my wife who made this all happen. It was her partnership and wisdom and insights that actually made me logical half the time and told me to just, use my head and use my heart. So I want to thank my wife. I want to thank my son who's here tonight, who you guys all saw before, but also my girls who also are public servants with the firehouse and with the church and a number of other endeavors. One of them's off at a track meet tonight in New York, and the other one is also in New York studying for final exam. So I wish they were here, but they're not. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my parents. My parents not only taught me, but showed me how to serve. And they were fantastic guides for me. So hopefully I live up to a lot of what was said by Owen in the resolution before that we're forming the next generation of leaders. The accomplishments, there's so many, I'm not even gonna begin to recite them all that we've accomplished just this year with all the folks around the table here. But also previous governing bodies, those governing bodies. Budgets every single year, as you mentioned, promoting police and hiring folks and professionals that sit around this table that make it all happen. It's all the people that helped get you guys elected and myself elected. We owe a debt of gratitude to all those folks and all the next generation of people that are going to serve. None of this is easy. It's rewarding, but it's surely not easy, and sometimes it's exhausting. So I just want to thank the scouts for being here tonight. I was shocked until I saw Trip outside eating something, and I was like, "What's Trip doing here in the scout uniform?" And then it sort of hit me. So Trip, thank you for saving me the shock when I walked in. I love Trip, by the way. But it was really touching, the words, the resolution. The words from the scouts. This is all really meaningful to me, and I'm gonna miss it. I will enthusiastically cheer you guys on and support you guys in any way I can going forward, as you know. And who knows, maybe I'll serve again after all of my kids are gone and in college or whatever. But it's been a great ride, and I really appreciate having had the opportunity to serve. It's been a great ride, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to do that. So thank you for giving me a minute to speak, and maybe this thing will go run a little short tonight, and we'll go out and celebrate. So thank you all. Appreciate it. Did you take this all? You might use it on.
Where it is?
Yeah, first shot is better. Thank you. I was really surprised. I don't even see. It's off by 20 minutes.
I feel it took an hour.
Drew will be.
I mean, like, especially.
Charlie. What's up, bud? All right, moving along. Workshop session. We have a proposed farmers market. Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah, nice and close to the owl so that people can hear you on the conference.
Do you want to provide this context? Yeah, I mean, just to provide a little context, but I think the 15 speaks for itself. I think there's been lots of conversations over the years about potential farmers market. The group that is about to present, I don't want to steal anyone's thunder, but I think one of the nice things, I think Tracy would agree, is that they're thinking about this from a strategic standpoint, meaning how a potential farmers market could benefit other parts of the community, but also from an operational aspect in terms of the execution and how every single angle has been thoroughly vetted and considered. Conversations that needed to happen have already happened. So it's one of those volunteer groups that I think we all dream of that has a plan and also wants to execute it. So thank you. And we'll leave it to all of you to
And a bit relentless.
Yeah,
That's a good part of it. I'm Anna Antonin on 92 Baton Road.
Elise Casey, 263 Fairhaven Road.
Maggie Ludman, 53 Lewis Point Road. So we'll be quick, and like Kristen said, we've already kind of circulated the idea through a few different groups. We've spoken so far with the police department and Chief McGovern directly. We had a meeting with the Parks and Rec Committee. The green team is cheerleading from somewhere at this point right now as well. But we are proposing a farmer's market to start this spring on Willow Street in front of Sickles School. So that one-way street there that backs into the park. It would be once a month on Saturdays from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. A few reasons that we've decided on that location to be the best is because it's centrally located in the middle of town, walking distance from Buena Vista to Harrison, and it won't take people away from the small businesses that are on River Road. So by having it there, it creates a kind of an unlimited day on these Saturdays where people can come in and, you know, see as many shops or vendors as possible. So we've kind of been doing the footwork to get everything up and running in terms of getting the vendors on board. We're working with a great another local resident who has some farmer connections and vendor connections as well. So just to name a few, we have Benchmark Bread signed up to join us, Lusty Lobster. We've got a children's toy shop, a bunch of different you know, people that make dips and all of these really high caliber vendors that have decided to come on and join us. So yeah, yesterday we hit the pavement and knocked on all the doors at Willow Street to give them a heads up that we were presenting to you all tonight so that they didn't hear it, you know, after the fact that this was something that would be impacting them. I mentioned that we did meet with McGovern and he's completely on board and has said that he will help us manage and mitigate any traffic issues. We let the people on Willow Street know that they will have two-way access to the street while the market is operating. And we have also, you know, between the three of us decided we won't be cannibalizing any of the other events that Fairhaven puts on. So we'll keep the schedule consistent but flexible. So if there are big events in town, the market won't pull them away from that. The idea is May to December, December being basketball. So the school would probably be heavily trafficked at that point. The access to the park has been really a drawing point for us as well to give the kids and the parents some time to just cut loose. Parks and Rec Committee that we presented to last week was on board with it as well. So we thank you guys for your support. And it's been really well received in town. Everybody that we've spoken to has said, like, let's do it. Like, when can we start? So we've, you know, had to tell them to, and we're working on it, but it seems like something that the town would be, you know, it would be a really good drawing point for us to hold, and hopefully people will come in and bring some, bring their friends and the works. So I'll pass it off to you two if you want to say anything. That's the general gist. If you guys have any questions or concerns.
So the green team is listening right now also. The farmers market, I see it also being like a collaboration with not just the historic association, but like the green team, and we're going to pull the community together just kind of as a whole. They mentioned potentially having some sort of resident and vendor composting situation table area at the farmers market. They were working with a company called Unwaste that I guess has been at Love Where You Live Day before, and they're talking to them. So we're trying to bring in everybody, not just, but different aspects of the town and the community.
Yeah, we also see this as an opportunity. I mean, I've got a child at Sickles now. I get the emails that they're selling, you know, Knollwood and Fairhaven swag. You can have a booth, come and sell it there. You know, it can be something that the other parts of the town can also utilize, and it hopefully gets heavily trafficked. So that's all for that.
They said everything. Nothing to add.
Yeah, so, you know, we're here to we're constantly saying to poke holes in it if there are issues or concerns, or you know, Kristen gave us a lot of the benefit of the doubt. I don't think all of the stones are left uncovered. So if there are things that people think of that there are concerns for, we'd be happy to address it. Like I said, we are persistent, so we like to get things done pretty quickly. So.
And
Two things. Oh, okay, go ahead.
are you rain or shine, or is it going to?
Yeah, it would be rain or shine. All of the other ones, I would say, without last night would be like an absolutely hard no for anyone, but like rain and obviously heat would be things that the market is okay with doing, so.
And you see it going to December, from May to December?
I see May to December, I think like a holiday, winter one, would be nice, but flexible. The other thing, and this is my first farmer's market too, but in dealing with these vendors. Yeah. This is my fourth farmer's market, it would be weird, but, in dealing with the vendors, they like the consistency and they need to lock down schedules now so that, this is pretty much their means. So they want to know that they have a consistent farmer's market. Fairhaven has been a huge selling point, they know that the people will show up. So it hasn't been hard for us to really get people on board for that, but they do like to have once a month, like they know that they're going to be in Fairhaven, so, but we kind of have to work around those typical farmers market schedules, and that's really it.
Do you see any parking being available on Willow Street?
Yeah, so we would be using the second half, basically from the crosswalk on would be where the vendors would be, so any of that up until then, and then further closer to the residents would be available for parking.
And during that time, the road would become two ways in and out?
It would become two ways, probably at the lower half of that street. I would say the one way would continue from like the arborvitae's, the new wing on, and then the two ways from where the homes start would be the most accessible. We would have the police officer there, so he can manage all of the traffic going in and out. But we would encourage walking. I think that, I know that they did a day like at Sickles where everybody was encouraged to walk. I think that's kind of part of the deal, our little dreamscape would be, we have blankets so that people can grab lunch, go to the park, hang out, enjoy a day, and kill some energy.
Shop. Two things, if I may, Mayor. What I want my colleagues to know is among the many planning documents that we have, the ATP and the 2007 River Road Corridor Study produced by PPS both address and speak to the value of a farmer's market in Fairhaven fundamentally to support the business district. So what plans do you have in mind to connect this Willow corridor to the business district?
It would be encouraged to, and not, obviously not required, but it's an 8 a.m. start. I know a lot of the businesses open around 10 or so. Encouraged to open your doors early. I spoke with Genevieve Debris the other day, and she's of Canyon Pass, and she's incredibly supportive. She also offered us to let people know that they can utilize her restroom if they need to while they're at the market as well. Encourage the people that are on River Road to open up early, set up a shop out front if they can, if they have the sidewalk space. Harvey and the hardware store is always open quite early at that time anyway, so just getting those buildings and those people up at that time. I think it's a lot of cross promotional marketing. You're at the farmers market, stop by River Road Books. This is parallel, so we're hoping that those two things, the fact that Willow Street will be closed gives it kind of like this open escape that people can walk back and forth between Willow and River pretty easily. So
As you move east, though, from Fairhaven Road, it's quite a distance until you can cut over into the business district. So I know that there's a footpath behind Sickles. I would encourage you to populate that in some way.
Yeah.
Signage or sales
signage or
opportunities.
things on the ground saying you can get to, and we also feel quite insulated in that area. It's away from the traffic too, so people can feel pretty safe walking, but totally agree. Some signs in the back that connect you from Smart Start through Sickles School right to the media is a great idea.
I'll just mention one flag, you left out the business district when you first talked about your partners on this. They are aware of this, and they have actually circulated some communication among the membership of the business association. Great. Some of them may be on the call tonight, and they encouraged one another to show up if they're interested. I know they are.
Yeah.
So you may hear from them tonight, or perhaps I've encouraged them to designate someone to work more closely with you, so you have a one-on-one point of contact. But I'm happy to do that as well. I'm always an advocate for our local businesses. That's not going to stop. But I, for one, fully believe in the farmers market idea. I think it's a good location. I think the connectivity is just going to make it that much more rich and interesting. And I love the way it could lead into the business district, and there'll be a sort of a cross fertilization, benefiting both.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Nice job.
Yeah, thank you.
The borough's perspective, we do need to know how much impact it's gonna have, like you mentioned, the police officer present, they get paid an outside duty rate, that money has to come from someplace.
Sure.
The same thing with public works, if there's gonna be,
Cleanup.
requirements of their time or input, all that is gonna have to be part of the overall plan.
Yep, absolutely. The vendors are paying to participate, so the money that's collected each month from what we get from them goes into taking care of any of the support from the surrounding groups that would be involved in it.
I have a question. Would this be a nonprofit? Have you formed it yet?
We were not, I don't think we're gonna be a 501c3. We were hoping to live separately. I think that would make it a little complicated right now, but I mean, if you all think that that's something that we need to do, we can certainly do it.
It's not a charitable organization, so it doesn't fit into the 501.
It could still be a nonprofit. The only concern I have is if this is something that you're going to benefit off of and make money off of, then there has to be some sort of communication. Because then any costs regarding the police department and the DPW would have to be borne out of the Fairhaven farmers market.
Just a for-profit, this doesn't
For
sound,
us.
this doesn't sound like a for-profit venture.
It's
but
a
there's-
profit that we would like the money that we
Pay
would
for the
take to pay for the
services.
services.
I think what Mr. Sobel's point is though, and as you know, because we all talked about this,
Mhm.
what entity is actually cutting the check to pay
Right.
for DPW's costs or the PD? I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
We
I'm
did
not,
talk
I
about
don't
it.
know the inner workings of how you guys are structured financially, but I don't see this living as its own standalone. I would hope that it could be, umbrellaed under something that is already well established, has insurance, has a bank account, so that we can, just,
From some research we've done, other towns just across the country, it's a tie-in with Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
Which seems to make sense, because again, we're not looking to take home any profit, sort of to break even with the police and anything else in the town.
I know the business association doesn't have its own entity. I explored that for you, but it's probably worth sitting down with them and let's
If they're gonna utilize our insurance
Yeah.
policy, then
Yeah.
it,
we have to figure out how to have a hold
I
on.
think we know it's a need now to
Right.
have a discussion. Let's have that
Yeah.
discussion offline and figure out the best way to do
Sure.
that. I have one question, maybe it's two questions, as it relates to the business community. Obviously, we want to drive business into our business community. Have we thought about potentially offering them a table?
Absolutely.
Where different businesses can
A
share
satellite, yeah.
marketing or whatever it might be. And or I guess the second thing is offering perhaps members of our business community a cheaper rate if they wanted to have a table.
Definitely, yeah.
I'll just say, and I'm not a small business operator, but I've worked with them for years. That as wonderful as that is, and I think you should do it, it comes down to having to operate a business at the same time.
Right.
Does that have a
Yeah,
table and it necessitates additional staff and it becomes operationally not a win, but you might find people who want to do that. But I do think that there are lots of other ways that kind of connection, beneficial connection. And it's conversation, it starts with conversation, because I think that they're gonna love this, but figuring out those opportunities for connection is just the next step or one of the next steps.
It's an option.
Sounds like
It would always be an option for them to do.
Great. Any other questions?
Love
Good?
it, support it, let me know how I can help.
I think it sounds like you have some support up here.
Can I just ask a question about any food that's there? Are there, you looked into inspections by Board of Health?
Yeah, all of the vendors are, they carry their own licenses, so yeah, there's like a whole New Jersey based system for farmers and their vendors with that.
Nice work.
Well, good, thank you.
Thank
guys.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving along, brush and leaf schedule and regulations.
Thanks, Mayor. So a little curveball, I'm throwing a PowerPoint out.
Yeah.
Chris, I figure, last one, might as well, end with a PowerPoint of information. It's only 5 slides, 6 including the title. But, the conversation's been really ongoing for 10, 11 months now. We've had discussions in multiple different forums and venues, conversations with residents offline and in public. So I wanted to take this moment before the year closes out to kind of level set all the information in one place. And if there's any questions, just let me know. But let me capture everything first, and then we can ask at the end. So background. So during fall 2022, I was door knocking, Kristen was door knocking, Josh was door knocking. Josh hit every single resident, and the top concern unequivocally was brush and leaf pickup and inefficiencies and ineffectiveness with the brush and leaf pickup. Now, we also know that there was a survey back in 2020, so the census data for 2020 shows 69 residents, 723, and that was the highest value responded to that, to 11.5%. Out of that, the cleanliness of the streets and the safety scored the lowest value in the survey. Of those 723, a little less than half provided answers to the additional question of what suggestions exist. Now, granted, that's 5% of residents back in 2020. Doesn't include the work we did in fall 2022, nor the brush and leaf, but nonetheless, it was centered on timing, it was centered on enforcement, it was centered on communication. Majority of the responses, there were some ad hoc outliers, and if anybody wants the data, I'm more than happy to share. This we put on there. So ultimately this year we formed a committee by through Mayor Halpern. We called the BLC. It was 12 volunteers from the community, and it was led by myself. Teresa Casagrande supported. We also worked very closely with Rich Gardella, Betty Ann, and Brock. So code enforcement, communications, engineering, DPW. Like I said, we met for 10 months. We continued to provide updates. And one other key background, because this was a learning moment for me, was to really understand the brush site permit and what's allowed there on Hendrickson. And the other factor that we spent a lot of time talking about was use of the site, specific to residential impact. And I think everybody up in this dais knows the growth that has taken place to improve the use of the Hendrickson site to prevent the residential area from being inundated, I don't think that's the right word, with industrial use. So actually some quick background. Next slide. So we wanted then to frame the problem, because I'm going to stress a few different things. This is not one-dimensional. There's no silver bullet, right? So with that being said, brush and leaf materials are consistently on Fairhaven streets. So the one comment, and if you go drive around town now, even after all the brush was picked up in zone A and zone B, there's small piles of brush out there, there's small piles of leaves out there, and it's just in disarray. There's an increase in locations where brush and leaves are placed conflicting with bike paths and parking spaces. So as you drive down, right, whether it's in the business district or you're going towards Rumson, or it's the bike path as you're going to Fairhaven, Red Bank, there's brush and leaf usually somewhere along that corridor. Now, with the frequency of debris on the street, right, this is bringing into some of the multi-dimensional aspects. More and more debris and sediment are making it into the stormwater infrastructure. So in August, we removed 57 ton, right? That's 114,000 pounds of debris that came out of the stormwater infrastructure, right? So that's another significant dimension here. If you have stuff constantly on the streets, and with the increase of velocity of water and stormwater, and it's making it to the drains, then you have flooding, right? So you can quickly see how this is a multi-dimensional problem. A misnomer is that brush removal is whole tree removal, and they're not. Brush is not meant to be a mechanism to remove whole trees. That's not what the brush site was meant for. That's not how, you know, the 4-foot sections and the 4-inch in diameter were all derived. But there's a little bit of misnomer there. The enforcement guidelines are not severe enough to deter non-compliant behavior, right? I say deter because you can't have 100% compliance. We will never have 100% compliance. But the constant anecdote that we came back to was how Brock would go and fine folks the $100, and they would say, I'll just eat the fine and let it stay out, right? So that was something that kind of stung a little bit, because even the enforcement guidelines not giving the authoritativeness required. Brush and leaf pickup can be more efficient, especially in the fall. And then this is a really important one, because you'll hear folks talk a lot about taxes and talk about service and comparing that. 22% of the taxes we pay contribute to the municipal budget. The other 70% is schools, county, etc. Right? So it's really important. So for every dollar, 22 cents is coming to the municipal budget for everything we do. DPW, police, staff, insurance, pension, I can go on and on and on. And what that means is that provides certain budgetary constraints that you have to work in, right? And the answer isn't just, let's take out a $250,000 bond and automatically increase taxes no matter what, right? Is that a lever? Sure, but that, we didn't want to do that. We wanted to try and stay as cost control and give as much flexibility. Next slide. So I want to articulate about all the different pieces of the review process, right? Knowing that it's not one-dimensional, knowing that there's no silver bullet, knowing that there's never going to be 100% compliance, ever, right? But here is the review process. We looked at over 10 different towns, what their brush and leaf was, use of a can. We started looking at how other towns pay for the municipal services. Some towns require the residents to buy their own garbage cans, recycling cans, some towns don't, right? It was a wide variety of creative brainstorming that came out of this. We had the townwide survey, like I said, master data logs of how much brush has been picked up since 2011, broken down by month, right, to the T. There were practical considerations discussed. Ratio, and we say property owners because I don't want to just say residents, right? There's commercial businesses, et cetera, right? So any property owners, we have a large population who use landscapers and some that don't. I do not use a landscaper personally. We talked about the inconsistent falling of leaves and global warming and how delayed that's been. We talked about how the varying lot size that can impact volume. We talked about practical considerations specifically of DPW, right? If we only had if DPW was fully staffed, and right now I believe we're 4.5 employees down, right, behind, right? So we should have, based on our size and what we do, 4.5 employees more. And that brings up a whole separate conversation with personnel and, competitive in the workforce and whatnot. But they go beyond just brush and leaf, right? The field maintenance, all the lawn cutting, field lining, snow removal, raising the flagpoles, taking care of Memorial Park for the Christmas holiday, doing the Fairhaven, not Fairhaven Road, I was confused, River Road and the lights, right? So, and again, we have the sheet from Rich, which outlines every single responsibility of the DPW, how many hours each item takes, right? So it was a very significant practical consideration. I think we met with 3 times with Rich. Now, there were certain assumptions that we had to make. So the first assumption was leaves require more attention in the fall, right? Leaves fall in the fall. So let's put a little bit more attention there. We said brush really requires more attention in the spring, right? And the data supports that for the last 12 years, back to 2011, that in the spring, specifically April, is when the most amount of brush is put out to the street. Acts of nature are in a whole separate category, right? So there will be acts of nature, just like we had in August. And I don't know if the governing body remembers, there was a nor'easter or some storm, whatever, and it caused a tremendous amount of debris to come down. DPW went out, they made an ad hoc assessment, and they picked up 13 loads of debris that fell from that storm. And we don't do brush pickup in August, but because of the act of nature and the assessment we did. So put acts of nature over here, right? Because we're trying to standardize a process, and an act of nature is not standard. It doesn't happen on, every week, every weekend. And then the fourth one was, if pickups were more frequent, the volume in theory should be less, right? Because right now pickup occurs once a month, the volume grows over that. So if you had more and more pickups for those people that put it out, there would be less volume over time. Now, there were 3 primary perspectives that we evaluated the current process: schedule, communications, and enforcement. But we also recognize that 2 other significant factors had to be taken into consideration: safety, again, the bike lanes, the parking spaces, right? And stormwater, right? We talked about the one example of jetting, which removed 57 tons of materials. That doesn't include the other. I didn't get any of the other data because we do storm jettison, I think it's called, right? Jettison the pipes. Thank you. And then education. Education was a big one. And then we also recognize that there's a little bit of confusion. We have zones 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then there's zones A, B, and C. Why not just make it consistent, make it a standard, and make everybody on the same page? So this was over a 10-month period of what we did, right? Next slide.
We're having an issue with the public.
Oh, no problem. Sorry, public. Mayor, I'm gonna start up now, kid. Hey, Chris wants to get out of here. Okay, so
Soaking it up, man.
love it. Love So 3 primary changes, and we're gonna go into them at a high level. Schedule, communication, enforcement. These were all the different things that we had to take into consideration to balance. Now, remember, we have all the information from fall 2022. We have all the data from resident survey in 2020, right? We had all those different practical considerations, all of it. But for us, it boiled down to how do we increase service? How do we ensure safety? How do we ensure clean streets? How do we ensure alignment with other municipal services? So we don't have cans out 5 days a week and, you know, you're playing like, you know, Frogger with your car. Stormwater management, street sweeping, which is so critical because that street sweeper is in theory, doesn't happen because there's always stuff in the streets, is supposed to come in after the street's been cleared to pick up the sediment so that it doesn't end up in the drain and you have 57 tons of sediment that you're taking out. Staff efficiencies, we're down 4.5 DPW employees, right? We've been trying to hire. Resident efficiency, and there's a specific anecdote here, and I actually have, and I'll share it to you when I get to this in a second. And then budget neutrality as best we can, right? Next slide. Okay, so here's the changes. This is the final slide, and this is where I want to spend a little time. Communication. As this year has progressed, we recognize what, at least for me personally, I'm gonna speak about Drew right now, right? What I've recognized, right? I've recognized in this town is that, you know, we can send out emails, we can provide updates, we can go provide white glove service, right? But communication is the most important thing, and inviting residents and informing them and educating them and having the residents put their trust in the folks that they elected is really, really critical. Vegetative and yard waste. I didn't even know what that meant, truly, when I dove into brush and leaf. It was an education to me. And not only was it an education with what that actually means, but then the pictures, what brush is, what leaves is, etc. And again, it comes back to what is allowed at the brush grinding site. And it also comes back to, and here's a fun fact for everybody. We are the only municipality in Monmouth County that is allowed to bring its leaves to a farm to be composted. Correct me if I'm wrong. The farm closes shop 31 December. And the farm has very strict guidelines on what is allowed to be mulched, decomposed, and put back into the soil. Okay, so that's a really important fact to keep in mind because it's not just, you know, commingle. You can't commingle because the farmer that's trying to churn up his leaves can't churn up brush. Okay, well, why can't I just put, you know, my garden stuff and throw it in there? Because that isn't meant to be recycled and thrown in. Why can't I throw my grass clippings in? Well, they're a type C recycled material because they have fertilizer on it, so they got to be disposed of accordingly, right? It's all these different data points that, quite frankly, I didn't even know until I got into this. And it gets back to the communication and to the education piece, right? So hopefully I'm educating everybody in the room on the dial-in right now. But communication big. Enforcement is another important one. And again, these are 3 pieces to the puzzle. It's not one-dimensional. There's no silver bullet. But if you tackle from these 3 perspectives, this is where we ultimately landed. So enforcement, basically, bottom line is every summons requires the recommendation has been, and what the ordinance, hopefully when it's workshop next year, because we're not going to get to introducing the ordinance this year. We'll workshop, introduce, adopt. That's the process. So we will workshop this again. But enforcement increases the fines and then makes the mandatory court appearance for the first one. Because what we recognize is those anecdotes where residents say, yeah, I'll pay $100, leave it on the street till, you know, the DPW crew comes out. Well, people really respect their time more. So they got to go spend 6 hours at court. Well, that's going to be a much more of a deterrent than just having to write a check for $100 to leave it out. So schedule. Okay, so we talked communication, we talked enforcement, we talked about all these practical considerations, the data, taxes, all these different pieces, right? Keep everything we talked about to come here. So with the schedule, I'm going to start with the first 2 bullets, the last 2 bullets, end on the middle, and then go to the can. So in January, Christmas tree pickup stays unchanged, right? People put the trees that they just picked up. April, so we call it spring cleanup. Everything goes to the street, right? Should be separated, but everything goes to the street, whatever you got. Right, thought process again was that in the spring, when people are opening up their houses, that's when majority of the garden cleaning out is occurring. If you're going to be, you know, removing trees, not removing, it's not removable, but trimming trees, etc., that's when majority of it happens. And again, that's not just Drew saying that, right? We have the data, the actual data to support it. So that's January, April. I'll come back to May through September. October, same type of cleanup. Right? And the thought process here was twofold. One, most folks, even if they have a landscaper, are gonna put their house to bed. Right? That's what I call it. Nobody else calls it that. That's what I was taught growing up on my Italian grandparents. Right? You gotta put your house to bed. You gotta do your driveway. You gotta blow out the sprinklers. You got, right? All that stuff, right? So in October, and the second piece is that we have to prepare for leaves. Right? And we know, right, the assumption was that leaves fall in the fall. We know that we have global warming. We know that the leaves are sometimes falling later, right? We know that zone A usually provides feedback that their pickup already occurred and it's gone. And they're not coming around again. So October, fall cleanup, street, no can, like you do now, right? Put whatever you have out. And then rolling leaf pickup. Rolling leaf, put it out. You have until November 1st till December, not 31st, because that's New Year's Eve. I think we're closing New Year's Eve? No, we're open till December 31st to put your leaves out, and it'll be rolling pickup. So no more of this, you know, zone ABC November, zone ABC in December. Put your leaves out as you normally do, big piles, whatever, right? And we'll pick it up. Okay. Now we get into the May through September, and there's a couple things I want to call out here that went into this. One was all the data that we had. Two, what other towns have done successfully. Three, the large number of residents who hire landscapers. The large number of residents and the variety and sizes of parcels. And again, on the assumptions that when we bring our house to the house, when we wake it up in the spring, that energy is focused in the springtime and not throughout the summer. So between May to September, with an approved container, and I'm gonna come back to that. But what the thought process has been, and where we landed was in May through September, go to twice a month brush pickup. Right, so again, knowing that the more frequency, so if we do the spring clean out and we do a huge jolt to the system, and again, the brush pickup confirms that. And then we go to twice a pickup, the volume of stuff that's out there in theory should continue to dwindle down. Now, both the brush pickup, and again, it has a caveat on the can, it does, and the rolling leaf pickup looks to more than double what the current service is. Now, the caveat on this is that knowing the expense to buy a can for every single resident and what that would do to taxes, knowing that not every resident is going to have that much brush and participate in the program, and trying to find some equilibrium with what other towns have done successfully, we came up with the can. You might have heard it as a green can, I'm calling a green can. We would work with Fairhaven Hardware to procure it at a discounted rate that would go to the homeowner. It would be delivered. We potentially would work with another group such as the Fairhaven Foundation to have an application process someone cannot afford it. And it would have to be stored accordingly with our current ordinance. But the thought process was to balance all of those different factors that we talked on slide 2 or 3, and especially with efficiencies. So I asked Rich to be here tonight because I if any questions of the efficiencies come up, but we went down as far as brainstorming how long it takes to literally take the can and lift it to the back of the truck by multiple versus having to use the claw versus having to, and I wish I should have put a picture up, I can show you the pictures today, of going and picking out a little pile up on the ground off your hands, right? And knowing that we were 4.5 employees less, that there could be some efficiency. The other efficiency, which we talked about with the resident, was what we saw, and there were actually folks who went out and saw this, were residents were putting their brush and leaves in wheelbarrows and in garbage cans, walking into the curb and then dumping it. We said, okay, well, if cans and wheelbarrows are a mechanism in which people are bringing to the curb anyway, why not leave it in? And again, it's not one dimensional, right? We're not saying go buy 15 cans because you have 15 cans every 2 weeks. If you use the standardized process that exists, you put most of it as you can on the front end, there's unforeseen circumstances. And if you have that additional brush that you want to participate in, here's a mechanism that gives you to do it twice a month going forward. So I went 21 minutes, Mayor, apologies, but I wanted to level set all the information.
Define brush.
I'll let Rich do it. He knows the definition. Brush.
Brush is considered trimmings, pruning, no larger than 4 inches in diameter, and needs to be no larger than 4 feet in length.
Like woody,
Like woody material.
woody clippings, they call it.
Yeah.
And so there's gonna be like a whole list of what constitutes woody clippings. With the exception of, I'm not even gonna say that because it's not gonna change what people are currently putting out. It's gonna change how people are putting out and what they're relying on, so.
So basically you have leaves and you have brush,
Leaves and brush,
that's all.
just like we have now, basically.
And again, the leaves, the cans and the leaves have nothing to do, right? The leaves are put out in the fall, they're put out in the spring, and then it's rolling to the street. This is really just centered on the can, right? And using the can as the mechanism between May and September to put your brush in a can. And leveraging April as the primary month to get the big bulk brush out.
I love the idea that we're gonna keep this stuff off the street. I just, I think it's an idea. I think actually implementing it and changing all the behaviors in every home is gonna take time. I think the enforcement needs to be metered out over a period of time while everyone is becoming accustomed to something so different. I may not do brush, which I wonder why we don't just call branches, or something. Brush is this kind of vague term, leaves people to wonder if they could put their mums in there, or, you know, other random things like their boxwood clippings. And I don't know, boxwood clippings meet the definition of brush. So even though there's leaves on it, it's still brush.
It's still woody material, it's still able to get ground up.
Same with pumpkins and leaves. But before you get to that, I just want to hit a few things, right? So it's not so much that the standard understanding of what brush is murky. I agree with you, but the root cause of that is not that it's hard to define brush. It's educating and communicating what brush exactly means, right?
Correct.
Which we talked about. The enforcement piece, I 100% agree with you. And 3 months ago, we started instituting increased enforcement of the current ordinances to get residents ready for what is coming down the pipe. So what we've done over the last 3 to 4 months from a communication, enforcement, and even schedule is start to implement the foundational pieces required to ensure it's the greatest success. Is it going to be 100% successful? No. Will what it looks like in 24 be what it looks like in 25? No. But what we do know is we have some very serious issues in town, and we do know that we have data to support an initial direction to head. We may get 6, 7, 8 months into this and realize enforcement's crazy. We may get into it and realize the can's not working, right? But we're using best practices that we've seen and witnessed in other towns, which doesn't mean that it's fair. We never say, hey, just because that town does it, we do it, right? But we took them as initial vectors and then vetted it and evaluated, 1, based on the data that we had, 2, based on the practical considerations, and then 3, with the residents who volunteered to be part of redefining the process, right? So just wanted to kind of like, you know, articulate through those couple of pieces.
So, yeah, I think this is fantastic, right? If I'm a resident, the way, and correct me if I'm wrong, the way that I'm thinking about this is that the January pickup and the April pickup are consistent. We've always had them,
Yeah.
right? The next 4 bullets are an increase in service, right? Some of them you can up into, some of them being the October pickup is new, and that's gonna be available to everybody, correct? So there's an increase there, regardless of whether or not you decide to buy a can, you're already getting an increase in service.
Correct, but this service, you do need to buy the can
Right.
to opt in, but
Right,
yes.
I'm just thinking, just from the this is an increase in service. Let's put the can and the brush aside for a second. Like, we are doubling
Correct,
the pickup, right? We're now doing not just spring, but we're doing fall.
correct, and then rolling. leaf,
That's a,
correct.
right, so that's an
And the
increase.
rolling leaf, that's,
And the-
that's new.
And the rolling leaf, right? So that is an increase in service regardless of whether or not you participate with the can, and that's up to you. That's your option,
Correct.
right? So.
And I can speak for me personally, I don't have any brush with Green Main September, I'm not saying that I am the
Right,
anecdote, but
I
we
could
had,
say, I could say we will do that.
right,
Just knowing how we manage our property, we probably won't do the can.
Right.
so
so,
this is, to me, this is a win, in the sense that we're providing a significant amount of more services. You know, not necessarily at the cost of the taxpayer, right? That's what this is. That's the way I read it.
I like that we're keeping it out of the stormwater and that it's not gonna go into the river. I do think we have a couple of, it's because it's not gonna be universal adoption
no,
at one point.
it's not.
It's not, it's gonna take time.
And
And there, even with that, we're gonna have problems getting compliance along areas where we have bike lanes and on-street parking. Because there is nowhere for them to put their leaves, let alone the brush cans, of course, it's simpler. This actually
Yeah.
provides a solution,
Correct, because then you can keep the
They
can
can
on
keep
the
the can
sidewalk
on-
on the grass, right?
not on the sidewalk,
Not sidewalk,
because
but the grass, the
it
little,
has to
like,
be on their property.
the right of way.
In that little strip, which is too small for a can. It's, there's not obvious solutions for the River Road corridor. Which we gotta own that, figure that out. I don't have an answer to it. I'm just acknowledging that that particular corridor's got both of those things that we've got to keep clear. We're gonna keep sidewalks clear, bike lanes clear, and there is nowhere for them to put their leaves in their can without violating
Yeah.
local ordinances. So
And I
I don't
wonder,
know whether it's a leaf, I don't know whether it's a leaf bag, and the can,
well, that was funny too, because in the survey, I remember specifically someone said the borough should have folks purchase their own leaf bags and put the leaves in the bags to help with pickup.
Oh, that was one of the
Specifically
survey.
One of the survey responses. What?
I had that in Europe.
Yeah.
It's like big canvas bags.
So right now, everyone's used to the convenience of just hauling it and jumping it in the curb. This is
And then-
convenient because,
But they're
It's
complaining about it.
but exactly, because it's unsightly, it does pollute the storm drain system, it does create blockages, it can lead to flooding, like. But that's the behavior that needs to get rewired. So
Correct.
we all know changing behaviors takes time.
And changing is painful, right? Like if people, listen, I'm not detached from the other side of the day. It's not to think that folks are gonna be upset. Change is extremely hard.
Mhm.
But we studied and evaluated this for 10 months from so many different perspectives. We have to start somewhere because we can't consistently pull out 57 tons of material out of
No,
one piece of stormwater infrastructure,
And,
right?
and let, sorry,
there's a
to interrupt.
greater
This is
good.
not, this is in response to the feedback that we got from the community. We're solving a problem that they came to us. with.
Correct.
So therefore, they're like any plan, we're going to have some nuances that we need to figure out. We saw the same thing with farmers market, right?
Correct.
But this is overwhelmingly positive for the community.
Correct.
There are gonna be some streets that need a little bit more nuance, but overwhelmingly positive to the community, and overwhelmingly we're responding to the feedback that they gave us.
Yes. Rich, you stood up. Did you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to, Drew touched upon it a little
Can
bit.
you show me the trimmings thing again with your hand?
I'm Italian.
Okay.
One of the things we looked at too internally is the efficiency of brush collection. Right now, as you know, we have zones A, B, and C. So theoretically, we're out there anywhere from 12 to 15 days a month picking brush up during those brush months. You're gonna see a front end loader and a rear packer, and typically 3 to 4 staff. You'll see guys raking, a guy with a claw, a guy, you know, it's quite an operation. The thought process with this is by increasing even the number of pickups, going to proposing a Tuesday pickup. You split the town in half, so 1 and 2, 3 and 4. It's a game of numbers, as we talked about. We have the data, we know how much material we pick up. When you look at the numbers now we're gonna be only going out on Tuesdays, 1 day a week, which trims it down from 4 to 5 days a week to 1 day a week. You pull up with one piece of equipment, you dump the can, you move on. It's a game of a few seconds, you know, when you run the math and how long it would take us to get through half the town, you know, on any given Tuesday. And effectively, the guys will start at 7 a.m. and we will do our best to get all the cans picked up by the time we go home, or we'll stay a little later that day, whatever it takes.
But it's a net gain of 12 days.
The
a
gain
month.
in the days and the hours that you get back and put in the bank.
Right.
To go do other things within the borough, whether it's setting up for the farmer's market or
Fields.
taking care of baseball fields, facilities, streets, filling potholes, all of the things. We ran all those numbers, we looked at the data. And to Drew's point, is it gonna be perfect the first year? No. It's gonna be a learning process for us too, logistically, assuming all the equipment is up and running and effective. But I know the guys, we all met internally too at DPW, they are on board with this, they're excited about it. We also think it's a safer way to pick up the brush rather than bringing the tractor down the street. And especially with the number of cars on the street on a daily basis, trying to get up and break stuff from under people's bumpers and, you know, everybody out on the streets, depending on, you know, the weather, so.
Are you raking brush?
Yes, we have to break brush. You have to, when the claw can only pick up so much, and then there's the debris left, and you have to break it into smaller, you know, a smaller, neater pile. And no matter how much you rake, you never get, there's all that debris is still there, the silt and things like that, so. I just wanted to,
Thanks, Chris.
you know,
I forgot that number, that it's
Yeah.
16 to 4.
It sounds good to me. I'm still not sure why it's not an increase in cost for our residents with that much more activity, but I'm concerned about Fairhaven Road, River Road. You've got 2 months there where you've got rolling pickups, which means there's gonna be a lot of leaves out there all the time, November and December. And those are sharrows.
Yep.
There's parking areas, and I'm just concerned that if you've got 2 months of leaves out there all the time, where are the kids gonna ride their bikes and where are people going to park? Because people put their leaves in the parking space.
Correct, and so we spent a lot of time talking about that, Rich, keep me honest here, right? So the reason that we propose going to rolling pickup this is there are certain corridors in town that are used more frequently. There are certain corridors in town where kids bike to school. And right now, based on the zone pickup and whatnot, leaves can be out there and left. I mean, I have driven down River Road, which is zone C, the furthest part to Rumsted, and leaves have been in the parking spaces for weeks, right?
Yeah.
Because the last pickup was however many weeks ago. So what the rolling pickup does is it gives DPW the flexibility to, I'm gonna say, police leaf pickup, taking safety in mind, right? So if there were 2 areas in town, one was a cul-de-sac with leaves, and I'm not knocking on cul-de-sac with leaves, but one was a cul-de-sac with leaves, and one was River Road where the bike path is being blocked by leaves. The rolling leaf pickup gives DPW the flexibility to go there and get it up. So it's again, it's not gonna be perfect day one, but the thought process was to provide that flexibility to DPW, where when they do their rounds in the morning, when they're doing pickup, which if you see them at 7 a.m. driving around, right, they're assessing what piles they're gonna do. If they see these piles, or they know what the routes are, right? This team works closely in town, so that's where that flexibility comes up. As far as the cost of the homeowner, are we passing for those who choose to opt in? Are we passing the cost of the can to them? Yes. We are. And there was no good solution for us to buy everybody a can, knowing that most folks won't opt in. Given that but I forget what it was, 55% of residents use landscapers, right? And then of those, you know, how many have properties large enough, right? So the subset kept getting smaller. So 100%, right? And is the cost of the can gonna be so egregious? No, right? From the initial assessments, what I can tell you is the can at Home Depot costs $41. And Fairhaven Hardware has told us that they're gonna beat that considerably, right? And deliver. So yes, we are passing that, but instead of buying a can for every single home and having to maintain them and spending probably over the bid threshold, because I think our trash and recycling cans are how much a person, how much each? The 95 galloners, we wouldn't use those, but they're over $100 each. Yeah, so again, it just came to that, right? Because we get up to the budgetary constraints and.
So do we have an option for, let's just say there's a family lives in Fairhaven, it opts out of the can, but might have some brush that they're not gonna keep on their property. Is there a place where they can take their brush? Is there an alternative to the can or nothing?
Not in town.
Not in town.
Can you put it in your green can? Not your green can, the gray can, the regular trash can?
Why
Like,
not?
can you,
Wigs, yeah.
can you dispose of like your?
Like the wigs and all that stuff.
So it depends on who you ask, right? The DEP would say not to do that, right? And that you should grind it or decompose it, but
Because people do, I've been told I can put it in.
I do. Again, I use most of the twigs that fall, because again, I do my turn in the spring, so any twigs that fall because they're dead branches, I turn into kindling for my fire pit.
So where I'm going with this is, this might be part of the messaging. That there are options, it's not the green can or nothing. Have you, considered?
Oh, yeah.
Keeping your branches, broke it down into, in the next season, it's ideal kindling. I don't wanna complicate it, but.
You're 100% correct.
There are options
Correct.
and, they might not be evident to some folks.
Right,
So-
and we even talked about like partnering with the green team and figuring out different solutions and how you can actually keep this stuff on your site and
Mhm.
use it for like garden
Yeah.
nutrients and.
Talking with other communities that do this, neighbors share cans too, so there's that
Mhm.
opportunity. We're gonna be coming through twice a month, so you may not have
Mhm.
to fill your can up for that given Tuesday, and your neighbor might say, hey, you mind if I borrow your can this week? Sure, here you go. So there's other ways of, making that available.
That's probably something worth fleshing out a little bit
100%.
for in the communication efforts.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. So this PowerPoint, if you guys want, we can put the proposed action plan that the BLC came up that started the conversation 3 months ago, all on the website. We'll send a communication out. Again, we will workshop this again in the new year when Michael and Brian are here and they're up here. And if, things are still progressing, we'll look to introduce the ordinance in February, adopt it, and then begin all the legwork, because there's gonna be a tremendous amount of work on communication, coordination with Fairhaven hardware.
I'd like to suggest a longer window of communication. I don't know if everyone's open to that, but we are gonna have to go to look at our contracts for trash and recycle. While it's a separate service for folks at home, it's the way they manage their properties and
Yep.
they're accustomed to certain things. If that changes, which I don't know that it will, but if there are any changes to that, and we're introducing a change to brush and leaf, it's a lot to integrate.
Yeah, I agree.
And not everybody's on the Borough website researching how
They're
to
not.
do it all. And in fairness, they shouldn't have to, but it's gonna take a while for this to saturate the collective mindset. So,
Drumbeat messages
okay.
is what it's called.
We have
Yeah.
to first pass the ordinance.
Oh, yeah, correct.
We've got some time.
We got there, but.
I don't know if that first thing is past the ordinance. I'm saying first thing is communication. That's what I'm saying.
We can start with putting the presentation, everything out online and start getting feedback. I'll work with Reese and Allison on that,
Yeah.
get stuff out there. We'll set
I
up.
think that'd be great.
Absolutely. Well, that, as I've spoken to a lot of residents on this, right? When I say a lot, I'm gonna say since doing the initial presentation, probably 24 people that have reached out proactively saying, hey, Drew, like, I had a question. And most of it was a misunderstanding and whatnot. And then I forget who I was talking to, somebody in Lakewood went up saying, hey, we should really centralize and put it out there. People will be able to consume it for the next 3 to 4 weeks. I'm always available. Everybody up here is always available. We keep the conversation and start the drumbeat messaging there. So sorry to take up so much time, but I thought it was important. And I know Chris is fully supportive.
Have my support. Enthusiastic.
Thanks, man.
All right, moving along, public comment on agenda items only. This is only comments on agenda items. Please stand and identify yourself by clearly stating your name and address for the record. Please try to observe a time limit of 3 minutes. Anyone in the public with a Comment on agenda items only. Yes, sir.
I love the idea of the rolling brush, the rolling leaf thing in. Wherever it is, October, November, I think that's
November,
great.
December.
My concern is the beginning of the season in April. If you follow the existing ordinance or whatever, you have 3 days, you're not supposed to put your brush out for 3 days prior to your week of pickup. So that means you can put your stuff out on Friday for a Monday pickup.
We updated it to 2 Saturdays before your pickup. So you get 2 full weekends of preparatory work.
Because that's my thing.
Yeah,
Like,
sorry.
3
I
days,
mentioned that.
I'm retired, but I 3 days to get everything out of the curb.
2 full
And if I
weekends,
miss it, then I'm screwed and everything has to go in a can.
2 full weekends.
So my second thing is, can you get more than one can?
Yes.
I like the idea that you can borrow, but I've done that with garbage and everything else.
You can have as many as you
Have a
want.
party or whatever.
There's no limit.
The second, just the point of, just because I'm on. Anything else.
We love you.
57 tons of
Materials.
materials,
Mhm.
that should sediment or whatever.
Yes.
But when was the last time that those catch basins were cleaned out?
10 years.
Fair question.
Okay, so it's not as if that happened in a period of years, it's a long period of time, yeah. And street sweeping, I lived here for 27 years, and only since we've gotten these new street sweepers, have I seen the street sweep. I mean, maybe 27 years ago, one came by once or twice, now there are street sweepers. But I also think, to the point of cars being in the road, that maybe there has to be some kind of schedule, so there can be no parking, and I hate to make it seem like a city kind of thing, but no parking on Tuesdays on the east side of Vance Road, so you know that you can't have. I had 4 cars, my kids were home, we had 4 cars in the we parked in the driveway, but neighbors would park in front of my house.
Check.
I haven't had my street swept with street sweeper in months, because there's always a car parked there.
It's a good point.
But I
That's-
think if
that's
we had a schedule, that would be great.
Awesome.
Okay, that, I guess, is it on. I did have another comment.
Is it agenda?
Yes, on the fishing and crabbing. So for fishing and crabbing, all of the comments, all of the changes have to do with wild fishing and crabbing.
Yes.
But do we really want people being able to pitch a tent, even if they're not crab? Do we want people to have a 50-gallon cooler if they're not? Do we want people with an open fire, even if they're not crabbing? If I go with my wife, she's not crabbing, she pitches a tent, that's our air mattress, rolls out a 50-gallon cooler. There's one back,
Has she done
that's
that?
okay.
Has she done that?
No, but I'm just saying, from a practical standpoint,
We can always, there could always be an additional ordinance provided.
but I'm just saying, I did across the board thing, we shouldn't have open fires anywhere.
No, but
We
there's
shouldn't
always,
have, people could theoretically, I could pitch a tent in Fairhaven Fields, in the woods there.
Well, I don't know the ordinance in Fairhaven Fields. I don't believe that would be true.
There's more than sunset, sundown, sunrise.
Yeah.
But you can't when you get in the park.
Okay.
Before sunset, when the sun goes down.
I guess,
this was only meant to tackle the,
and I guess I totally understand that, but I think there's a big loophole that if their objective is to keep people off of that dock doing things they don't want them to do, it should be across the board.
We had that initial discussion, and when we had all the feedback on 21 Fairhaven Road, the consensus from the residents in that neighborhood was that the issues were pertaining to fishing and crabbing. That doesn't mean that we're not gonna extend it, doesn't mean we're gonna change it, but we gotta have a starting place based on.
And let me just answer that too. I don't necessarily, because it hasn't been an issue, want to put something on the record that says that a baseball team can't bring a large cooler full of Gatorades to Fairhaven Fields.
Oh, I'm saying limit it to the dock. There should be a sign at the dock. No tents, no mattresses, no whatever else. I'm just gonna close with one thing with the folding chair thing. If I was a grandpa walking down to the dock to be with to fish with my grandchild, I couldn't bring a chair.
We have benches that go around the entire outside of the dock,
I'm familiar with the dock, but I'm just saying that
benches.
that goes for Aquatic Park. because it's a water way and I'm gonna freshwater fish with my son and I'm gonna teach him how to fish. I can't bring a chair. I just think the chair thing takes it a little.
I don't think you're necessarily wrong. What I would say to you is I kind of like to see the way it's written for it to see how it's implemented, see if it works, and if we need to pull something back. I think it's very easy for a future governing body to make a change. If we get feedback from the community that I can't believe I can't bring my chair here anymore.
Right,
And you hear that from more than one person, and that's something we'll thoughtfully
Class
execute.
action suit from some.
From the chair company?
Says, I'm just saying, from the ADA, some ADA lawyer who this is what they thrive on. To say that a handicapped person can't bring a chair and sit, I just think it's. Not really necessary to go that far, that's all.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public with an agenda item only?
Mike, it's Sally, 592 River Road, just to kind of piggyback on what Bill was saying, are there plans to clean up the pipes more often than every 10 years?
Yeah.
Because I think that's probably gonna be a big part of it. And the other piece is, just even today, like on the end of Colonial Court on Smith Street, there's a huge pile of leaves right on the gutters. So is that part of this plan? I feel like maybe should be considering more often just general cleanups of even just the problem areas or going around town after a big storm like yesterday. Is that part of?
Yes. Yeah, there was one other piece too on adopt a stormwater inlet. We'll talk about,
Got it.
we're getting a little ahead of the skis, but yes,
Okay.
yes.
I'd also hope that those leaves wouldn't be there because we're picking up the leaves
Yes.
more often. So
Ideally,
they
and
wouldn't
I
make
don't-
their way to the drain.
Yeah, and to his point, the leaves are out there for 2 weeks when they're not supposed to be anyway, so hopefully this will solve some of that. And Betsy, I agree, River Road and Fairhaven Road, people leave their leaves all the time. Even people who know it's an issue for flooding are still leaving their leaves there, so,
Cause the inlet and then
yeah.
there's no flooding though today.
No,
We're about
and
7
I
AM when it
was-
was
I
low
mean-
tide.
My backyard a little bit, but we're there. And I just want to say, Chris, thank you for all you've done for the town, and I look forward to, and hopefully we can, Brian can fill what you've been doing, so.
I'll give you
Thank
my
you for all
shoes.
you've
I'll
done.
leave them.
So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
May not be able to fill your shoes, but I don't think we'll be able to fill the Borough Engineers stock game over there. I don't know. if you've seen that. That's that's quite a statement, Rich. Is there anyone else in the public with a agenda item only comment? No, Allison?
I have 3
Okay.
from Zoom. First is Chris Hempstead.
Chris?
8:20.
There we go. Okay, Chris Hempstead, Willis Street. How are you? First, thanks, Chris Rodriguez, for your tireless work and support, your friendship, and your correspondence throughout the years on many issues. You know that we were on the same side and opposed. You've always been fair and balanced and easily approachable, and I've always appreciated that. With respect to the leaves and the pickup, one thing maybe to think about, and we don't have to discuss it, but just to think about is maybe there's a rolling period of adaptation where maybe a zone or a part of a zone goes first, and and the town will, in a sense, temporarily subsidize the cans contingent on the whole plan working. And if it works, okay, the people who are part of the pilot program have 2 years or 3 years if they don't want to pay the $70 or something, and then just sort of proof of concept. If it's not working, it doesn't work. It was a good effort, didn't cost the town a lot of money. And if it does work, you've got proof of concept or something like that. I don't know, maybe. And sometimes that helps people with the change, easing into it a little bit. And the other part of that is I just remember, my wife and I were dating and going to her house and we would bag the leaves, and that was in New Jersey not too long ago. And I don't remember that being a terrible thing as opposed to the cans. I kind of like the cleanliness of the can, but maybe bagging's easier for people and cheaper. I don't know. And then lastly on the agenda items is the farmer's market. I think it's look, I love the farmer's market idea. I think I go to the one in Red Bank frequently, and I'm a big fan of that whole concept. But one thing I wouldn't mind the council taking into consideration is is maybe allowing for it to, if the traffic study doesn't seem to work that well, with, police helping navigate the two-way traffic temporarily one day a month, or if it's really crowded, maybe on street isn't the place. Maybe they can use the park. There's many farmers markets that are in parking lots and many that are in parks. Though I think the one in Atlantic and the one in Highlands is in the park, and they get a decent amount of foot traffic through there. So just something to consider, as you're thinking about how to structure the farmers market on Willow Street. And I can say that just because, look, with school drop off and pickup, it's one thing. I don't think the farmers market's going to be that concentrated with business. I don't think we'll have, thousands of people coming, but I hope we do. But if we do, it's obviously going to be a bigger traffic thing for the town. So maybe inside the park is something to consider. I don't know if it's the right answer, but at least I just beg the council to, to think about those things in an effort to get this, farmers market off the ground. That's it.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I think we can share that with, we'll share that with the farmers market team and, so the only thing I could think of is like how the, fireman's fair looks at the end of the week, but I also think this is not as much traffic, foot traffic. It probably wouldn't eat up the grass the same way. So
There's a lot of things to work through with the farmers market.
yes. Okay, Allison?
Susan O'Brien.
Good. Hi, Susan.
Good evening. I have two things to bring up about the brush and leaf. I wanted to clarify that the green can is for branches, hedge trimmings, and bush trimming, like for forsythia, that anything that's woody. It's not for weeds, flowers, vines, leaves, or grass. And that really needs clarification, because I don't think it will be picked up if it's in the can with those items. Secondly, landscapers don't necessarily take the debris away with them. My neighbors don't. They put it in the street. So even if somebody has a landscaper, they may need to get a green can for their brush.
Awesome, Susan.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep.
Spot on.
And then I have, it's place.
Hi, Ruth.
Evening. I have to echo the sentiments of the gentleman who commented on the folding chairs thing. Through this whole thing, I don't think that you took into consideration the number of seniors that still live in Fairhaven, and where yard maintenance in any way, shape, or form is a challenge. You're adding to it. I have said all along that Fairhaven is over-administered. Keep it simple. Just forget this whole green can thing. Well, let me put it this way. Little Silver gave up. I don't know if you checked with them when you were doing your survey, but they simply said, put it out at the curb and we'll get to it when we get to it. Nobody was bent out of shape. How did that work out? Have you heard anything? People haven't stopped buying houses in Little Silver because there are leaves in the street. To me, this is just another regulation that is unnecessary. It's a matter of simplifying it for the residents. And I agree that you should keep the zones down to either letters or numbers. So if you're in it, you're in it. You're not a letter and a number and a whatever, and try to figure out when your day is. The other thing has to do with the chairs. The way the ordinance is written, or the way you've got it written there, it isn't just confined to people fishing or whatever, crabbing off the dock. It seems to include also people who fish from the little bridge there on River Road, almost into Red Bank. It encompasses practically any of their access to waterways. Am I correct, Mr. Attorney?
Yes. Yes, you are. Borough owned
So, you know, well, I'm not fishing, but I've seen people down there and they lean on the cement side rail or whatever it is, but you really need to be able to bring a folding chair. It is not nice to expect people to stand for hours if they are out there trying to fish or relax or whatever. So reconsider that.
Thank you, Ruth.
Another thing, Seabright is about the same 1.6 miles, 1.5 miles of area. Seabright picks up garbage year round, Mondays and Thursdays. Every Thursday, you can put your bulk out. And I think they're doing a terrific job. I don't think they're inundated with stuff, but they've got a simple schedule and it works. And I don't see why we can't do it. You folks seem to be forgetting that Fairhaven is a small town. It's really a small town. It should be better managed, in my opinion.
Ruth,
Okay, that's it. That's it.
All your comments. And the only thing I somewhat disagree with is you're always talking about us being so cost conscious. And the two things that you talked about, adding additional trash pickup and just constant brush and leaf pickup would be exorbitantly expensive for the borough of Fairhaven and would add to your tax.
Well, obviously they don't pick up leaves in January or brush in February. They do have months they don't do the brush. I'm talking about the trash. The trash, it's just consistent all year round. People do not have to refer to a calendar and say, this is the month that they do brush or anything like that. They just do brush from, I believe it's May to November, brush and leaves. And you can put it out on your second pickup day, and it's that simple. It's that simple. This has to be able to be done better. And as far as spending money, I will hearken back to something that I mentioned when we were talking about the community center. If you really wanted to save money, you'd move the library onto a second floor in a building that already has the mechanicals in it, so that 5 or 10 years down the road, you're not coming back to us and saying, we need a new library. And it's a better location in the center of town where the new community center would be. So if you're going to save money, you got to save it across the board. Thank you.
We have $14 million of cost on the design of the new DPW and police department buildings. I'm pretty confident that this governing body is making decisions with taxpayers in mind, and maybe we don't get them all 100% correct, but we're going to keep on trying to do our best. We're very thankful for your feedback. Allison, anyone else?
Mark Holmes.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Josh, just a quick question for you, Drew, and maybe for Rich. Did you ever calculate cost per yard of leaves or cost per scoop of leaves or the brush, the total amount of cost, the way you're currently doing it? That's all.
Yes. Can share offline if you want, Mark.
Perfect. Thank you.
Else, anyone else?
That's one.
That's all.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving along to approval of minutes, starting with the October 23rd, 2023 regular meeting. Motion.
Second.
Allison, might please have a roll call.
Councilmember Paul.
Yes.
Bowie.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Rivera.
Yes.
Rivera.
Yes.
November 13th, 2023 regular meeting.
Motion.
Second.
Allison, might please have a roll call.
Paul.
Yes.
Bowie.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Rivera.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Do we have enough people to approve the executive session, Allison?
Yes, majority of those present.
You only have, okay, November 27th, 2023 executive session.
Motion.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Paul. Yes. Hodge.
Yes.
Rivera.
Yes.
Okay. Hearing and adoption of ordinance number 2023-19, add section 9.6, fishing and crabbing regulations from public streets, rights of way and waterfront properties. Do I have a motion to open?
Motion open.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Is there anyone up here that has any comments? Is there anyone in the public that has any comments on fishing and crabbing? Is there anyone online? Do I have a motion to close?
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? I have a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Farmer's Call,
Abstain.
Poe,
Yes.
Koch,
Yes.
Lumber Bear,
Yes.
Martinez.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving along to new business council committee reports. Just before I move to finance, I want to give one lasting thought that I am going to have with Chris is, I don't know if it was October or September, but we had a need on the financial committee. And, you know, someone in your position who's winding down his minutes and counting the days, I'm sure, could have easily turned your back and said, I'm good. No, thank you, but you stepped up and filled that need, and just another feather in the cap. So I thank you for that. And as I say that, finance, by police, fire, and OEM, Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you. I'll keep it short. A little self-serving, but finance was to have a committee meeting last week, or it was maybe it was tomorrow. We moved that out to the new year, so no report from finance. Police, fire, and OEM. Drew and I continue to work with the fire company to work through some items for next year. So I'll be handing the reins over at the top of the hour, I think, to with any luck to Andrew on all of that. So I have nothing else to report.
Thank you. Personnel followed by Parks and Rec, Councilman Hope.
Sure. Personnel, for those of you that read the buzz today, perhaps, our library assistant is retiring, Annette Bufano, after 21 years of service to the community at the end of December. So, simultaneously, we have spent the past 2 months vetting Betsy and I and Teresa, a number of candidates that have applied for various roles in the Fairhaven Library, and we're pleased to announce, in addition to the library director, which we've spoken about at prior meetings, we're bringing on a team of assistants, and I think combined, and Betsy would agree, and Teresa would probably agree, is a tremendous amount of enthusiasm and excitement, lots of fresh ideas, and so I think that the potential for the library is pretty significant. Some more to come, but we're starting with the new team, and also thanks Annette for her service. Parks and Rec, we had our last meeting of the year a couple weeks ago. We talked about the farmers market. We talked about the spike safety program that will be launched in 2024. And we also had a pretty in-depth conversation around some repairs that need to occur at the Sickles playground. And so more to come on that, but we are looking into further conversations on costs and how to manage that with schools. So recognizing that the Sickles playground is widely used by a number of students at Sickles. So more to come on that, but it is something we're looking into. I wanted to just quickly circle back on the AEDs, because I know it came up a couple of times earlier this year. So a couple of residents had expressed interest in installing AEDs. We did respond quickly to the feedback. We bought a number of AEDs. We repaired a couple that needed batteries. So we're pleased to announce right now that we have 4 that are currently installed, with a 5th that will be installed in the community center once the community center is up and running. So 2 at Fairhaven Fields, 1 is at the playground next to the concession stand, 1 next to the batting cages, which is down in the lower fields. Bicentennial Hall, we have one here inside the building. DPW, we have one inside the building. And then again, community center will have another one installed once that building is complete. All of the units give verbal step-by-step directions. If anybody would like specific training, coaches, whoever, we're happy to talk about that offline, but there are verbal step-by-step directions, and they can be used on adults and children. So, the ongoing maintenance will be maintained by our police officers, which is great. But we're really excited about, sort of responding to community feedback and pleased to announce that we have 4 installed with the 5th coming.
That's awesome. Thank you. Councilman Koch, any more, anything?
Planning board, there was no meeting in December due to a lack of agenda. Our next meeting is January 16th, which will be the reorganization meeting for the planning board.
Great, thank you. Moving along, Councilman LaBarbera, Engineering DPW, Borough Facilities, Zoning Board.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Zoning Board, we had our final meeting in December. Reorg January, will pick back up in February. Engineering DPW, just gonna hit 4 items. The McCarter Pond work concluded. We're waiting to get the final assessment report on what was done and then what potentially we can start again, right in 2024. Fairhaven Street lighting project, we have to bid any day now. Fairhaven Road project on the resolution tonight, which is 299, the last one. So this is the second site survey required so that we can do the design of Fairhaven Road based on the grant, right? We have $1 million in grant money to do Fairhaven Road from where Lupo is all the way to where Rumson begins. We have to do the second site survey, and this has to be awarded by April. And the goal is to start at the last day of school, the day after the last day of school, and then have it done before kids go back to school, so we're not impacting the routes. And then the micro projects, trying to see what we can continue moving forward as we go. On facilities, likely gonna do a little bit of an update towards the year end, just kind of wrapping up. I'm gonna add a few different things on 3 different facility sites. So PD and Community Center, foundations are being backfilled, compacted, waterproofing. The goal is to attempt to pour the slab before the cold weather comes. Apparently you can lay concrete above 35 degrees, but then you need to put a blanket on it afterwards, which was super interesting. Steel delivery is going to be in February. We've had a tremendous amount of on-site discussions, Teresa, Rich, crane engineers, GCs, owners reps. We're going to have to temporarily use the park for some steel deliveries. So more to come on that. We're waiting for a logistics plan, waiting to outline what the left and rights are, but just want to give it a heads up. And we did walk through with the Historic Commission. I don't know if I said that last time, apologies. On DP, and I'm not going to get into the next steps. We'll pick it up in January. It's kind of status quo now to keep working towards the slab. DPW, we are green. The project will start no later than 01 February. So we're in the process now of getting the paperwork in order, mobilization. We're going to close down the recycling center, but do it after the holidays so that when folks have inundated. On the agenda tonight, it's number 298. This is the license plate reader. So that's that piece of equipment we've been talking about at the last governing body meetings. It's hardware. What this is going to allow, it's adding hardware to do real-time license plate reading so that when this security system is set up at the recycling center and people are illegally dumping, the police department's gonna be notified in, I'm gonna say near real time, it's probably milliseconds, but I can't say real time, it's not true. Near real time, milliseconds to be alerted and then go over there. Not to mention all the other information and I can provide more information on that. So that's DPW, we're gonna target groundbreaking mid-January. Fuel tank, we're conducting some additional analysis. We're looking to award that tonight, but we're gonna push that to January. And offsite Maple Avenue, we'll look to get that out to bid in the new year. We assess that we can bring it in-house, do some additional design engineering, save over to 200 grand from what was originally came in. Bicentennial Hall, we've had multiple meetings. We have an updated draft plan of moving forward. Not going to get into it. The key stakeholders are involved to include those on multiple different committees. So in the spirit of time, that is everything I have, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you. Borough Communications, Community Outreach, Councilwoman Paul.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's see. Outreach Communications held a special meeting to which Councilman LaBarbera was invited, and we heard an entire hour to really workshop the whole brush and leaf communication. At the moment, I can't report it complete, but conceptually we have a draft in mind that would show, well, we have 2 drafts. They're going to be developed in parallel so the group can evaluate it. One would be a 1-pager that shows essentially all the borough services, trash, recycle, brush, leaf, and bulk pickup and street sweep. Now, that's a lot to get on one page. It's a graphic visual, art assignment, but we're getting there. And if we fail to put everything on one page or we feel like it's not going to really convey all the information we wanted to, we're working at the same time on a one page that would basically illustrate the brush and leaf program separately. So more to come on that. We also recognize that thankfully A, B, and C zones will be going away. But even with that, some folks will still say they don't know their zone. Fair enough. So we're looking to develop a QR code. Once scanned, will prompt the user to enter their address or even just the street that they're on, the street name, and the information will pop back to them what zone they're in. I've been told it's fairly simple to set up, and that most of the, obviously all the information is available. It's just how it's organized. So more on that. The Environmental Commission held its last meeting on the 13th of this month. They're working on an annual report to include a focus moving forward to 2024 and partnering with all our unofficial bodies who are doing work throughout Fairhaven to include natural area and the garden club over a bird sanctuary, Third Street Trail. These are all connected with the Environmental Commission's work. And so the annual report will touch on how they're going to be fostering these connections. The green team held a sport swap. I believe that is still ongoing. Eye contact. Still ongoing.
Ongoing? I mean.
Did it all happen?
It all happened.
Like it?
It was it was awesome.
Do it again?
Absolutely. The plan is to do it twice a year.
Okay.
Depends on what fall
I'm sure Councilwoman Demicelli will inform us moving forward. The Shade Tree Commission held its last meeting of 2023 on 12/6 of this month. They're also preparing their annual report. I'm just going to do like a high level takeaway. I have to really give a shout out to Christy Larson. She's phenomenal. She keeps track of every detail. She's able to produce it upon request when the commissions meet. This is Environmental Commission and Shade Tree Commission, so I've had a chance to work closely with her in my role as liaison. And one of the things she developed is a running log of the applications for tree permit removal. And we processed 123 applications. I'm looking at you, Dave. This is your wheelhouse. 123 applications this year so far. The year is not at an end yet, which totaled 233 trees removed. Some of those having been sick, or diseased, or dead. We don't have a complete replacement of all the trees that are required under that permit approval. We know that 56 trees were planted thanks to the resident tree buying program. So the Shade Tree Commission intends to do a good job of sort of getting a better handle on that, with the idea that more trees would be going in the ground than are coming out. So the Grants Committee is meeting later this month, I think. I'm not sure. But it's a great group. I want to compliment Chelsea, who's great. Chris and I get to work with her, and we have, and I just want to like a flag, couple things. Green Acres funding, the round is open, and there are two sort of avenues. There's a universal open playground, which is based on a law that should make playground equipment available to anyone who wants to be able to go there, whether you have a disability or not. And then funding through Green Acres for planning acquisition for open space, and up to $700,000. And I'll just stop up for a moment to say that that's probably something we might want to really take a look at, given what we have on our plates, whether it's for examining public access to the waterfront, or repurposing any of other parks that need upgrades. This is something the Grants Committee has started to template an executive summary for you, and we'll perfect that a little bit more for the next meeting, so you'll have something to review. The business district hosted just a wildly successful stroll along with the rec department. Who here was out that night, December 8th? Just awesome. Crowds everywhere. Bigger. I mean, I think record-setting crowds is kind of what I'm hearing from everybody. There was at times tense moment, some traffic safety moments. Handled brilliantly by our PD. I think we should, I'm just gonna put it out there, it's something you may want to talk about before we get too much past the second quarter. Whether or not that event needs some additional safety measures, perhaps even closing the street. County road, I get it, but there are times when it's necessary. The Historic Association of Fairhaven, which I always like to tell you guys about, is hosting a small little thing at Bicentennial Hall. There's a wishing tree and a coat drive. And if you care to step by, make a wish, tie it onto the tree and send some goodwill into the world. That's what that's there for. And that's my report. I would like to say actually my final report of the outreach and communications chair.
Thank you. Moving along to the consent agenda. We're talking about 2023-291 to 299. Does anyone want to separate anything?
I just have one question. I actually sent it in the email, but I realized everybody gets busy. What address is block 77 lots 2 and 3?
324 Fairhaven Road.
324.
Lot 2, which I think is that last house before
The last two properties on the west side heading south.
Okay, before you hit the woods.
The sidewalk, we had the developer put in.
Yes.
For that 2-lot subdivision.
Yes.
It would be a possibility of continuing that sidewalk across those two properties.
Okay.
We're not sure if we have right of way.
Gotcha.
Why it's left at least their price.
Gotcha. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Teresa, did we, so last meeting we had, was something you want to check on the payment of vouchers?
Yes, I did. I have it right here.
It's,
It was the Serenium bill. I went on, I'd spoken to Mike Edwards and went over what he actually had done that was specific to Fairhaven. And most notable, what he had researched and included in what he was sending to the planning board. He obviously copied our planner and Greg Kenner also on language that needs to be added going forward for that was related to affordable housing. So it was specific to Fairhaven.
Okay.
And I did tell him that in the future, if something like this is going to be put out, just give us a heads up ahead of time that you know, that it's going, he understood, so we're fine.
have a motion to approve? Motion.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmember Paul,
Yes.
Howie,
Yes.
Yes.
Rivera.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Okay, department reports, October 2023. Tax collector, and then a variety of reports from November 2023. Do I have a motion to accept the reports as submitted?
Motion with a thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, go to the borough. Please stand and identify yourself by clearly stating your name and address for the records. Please try to observe a time limit of 3 minutes. Anyone in the public with a go to the borough comment?
I have one thing.
You're fire, sir.
Yeah, you're gonna like this one. Unfortunately, earlier today I was at a funeral. I was there with my mom and my sister, and I told them not to come because it was gonna be like 1 minute resolution, and I just want to publicly apologize to them because they would have really enjoyed what you guys did earlier and what the scouts did earlier. So, kidding aside, sort of not really kidding. I apologize if they weren't here, but it was really meaningful. I really appreciate the sentiments, and I'm gonna miss it. So
It's been an honor.
thank you.
Anyone else in the public? Allison?
Yeah.
So
I actually have one thing to go to the bar.
I have one thing as well.
Okay.
You want me to go first?
Whatever you do there.
I want to also thank Councilwoman Neff, who spent 3 years on the council here. It doesn't go without being said that, you know, she spent a lot of her personal time volunteering for the borough and the things that she was passionate about. So I want to make sure I recognize that. And I also, you know, being that this is the last council meeting of 2023, I want to make sure that I thank everyone, and I'm sure I'll miss someone, but especially this governing body. I really think we achieved a monumental amount of things in this calendar year, something that we should all be proud of, not only in the moment, but years down the line when we all are lucky enough to, sail out into the sunset, we can look back on everything that we achieved together. I think we did a really good job, and we wouldn't have done it without the support of the borough staff.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's everyone at Borough Hall, that's our police department, our fire department, our DPW. And then as it extends out to all the volunteers in the community that supported us in all these endeavors, and the confidence that our public has in us to make all of these decisions on their behalf. So I really think it was a successful year. I just want to put a bow on it. And tell you how thankful I was that it went the way it did. And with that, I'll pass it over to.
This is really very simple. I was reading the paper on Sunday and something caught my eye. They did a big article on Lake Hopcon. And one of the things I noted that the lake is 6 miles long and it covers 2,600 acres. But once a year, they have a lake-wide community cleanup where, people come out and they volunteer. They drain the lake a little bit, they clean it up. And the mayor and I have spoken about this before. I think there's a potential now that moving along with Bucara Pond. I think there's areas of Bucara Pond, it's very clear that with DEP regulations that as long as you're hand digging or working, without major equipment, you're allowed to do that. And I think it's something that with the Environmental Commission perhaps weighing in and working together, we could probably put something together on an annual basis for Bucara Pond also.
Very interesting idea.
Mayor, speaking of Brian,
Sure, Susan.
Hello again. I had another thought before and I finally found the resolution. There was some concern about the leaves along River Road. And actually, as part of the ordinance, which is 2009-10, residents on River Road are permitted to place their leaves in plastic bags, but I don't think anybody knows that. I pulled out the resolution. I also noticed that it says grass clippings, raking, and plantings are prohibited from the county landfill. That is not correct. They do take grass now. So when this is being updated, I think that also has to be looked at.
Will do,
Because
Susan.
I will bring it up when this ordinance comes up to be adjusted for the new brush and leaf. And then I have one more question. I lost Sunday for leaves. Now, because I've been on this brush and leaf committee, I have always tried to, abide by the rules, etc. So I have not put my leaves out before last Thursday. And however, my neighbors all had their leaves out for weeks. So now I have a dilemma because I still have a small amount of leaves to put out. Will there be another sweep before the end of the year for leaves?
Not necessarily. Yesterday, I believe we did River Road just to get ahead of things, even though technically the pickup for zone C was not starting until today. But we will be coming back around if we did that. Did we do your street yesterday morning?
Oh, yes.
So that was just in preparation of that storm that was coming as well, to get as much up as we can in some of those areas. But you'll see crews coming through River Road again in your zone towards the end of this week. So you still have some time.
So they're coming again this week?
Yeah, normally if we hit a street ahead of schedule, we will do the courtesy of going back around and see if there's any extra piles out.
Okay, because I'd like to get the leaves out of my driveway. Okay. Do you want it bagged or just free?
I would do, traditionally, I think you put them out loose, don't you?
I always just drag them out and put them loose. It's a pain in the ass to bag them.
Yeah. Put them out the way you would normally put them out, and I'll let the guys know that We'll be back around.
Pretty sure.
Okay, and I also noticed that a couple of my neighbors are now getting some kind of a warning or a summons because they had mixed in branches with leaves. And that's what happens with the landscapers. They just do whatever they want to do. All right, that's it.
Susan?
Yeah, one point of the borough, 60 seconds, I promise. I would like to propose at the end of this year, because I know when the year starts, we get into budget and everything, you know, we get slammed with a lot of things, but while we all have maybe a little bandwidth, I'd like to suggest that we consider looking at the master plan to see the re-examination report that was done in 2016 to look at what's still left undone. And truthfully, it's not that big list. We did 2 of the 5 significant bodies of work, the affordable housing plans in place, and we also conducted active transportation plans. Now, piece of our circulation component element of the master plan. Remaining undone is the business district vision plan and conservation and management element. I'm bringing this up now because our planning board is not so busy right now, which might be an ideal time to ask them to evaluate those outstanding items. Is that Susan?
Is that a dog?
No, it's Susan. She was laughing.
Oh.
You like the idea?
She's muted.
So, it's housekeeping at the end of the year. This is a re-examination of a re-examination. These things have been lingering for a long time and they're important. It's important business for Fairhaven. So I'm suggesting that we can talk about it in January or February, but while we all have time, enjoy your holidays and think about these couple lingering planning initiatives.
Allison?
We're good.
Good. With that, we're gonna move towards executive session. The time is 8:57 PM.
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 9:18 PM?
I'd like to make a motion
Oh,
to close the meeting
That's
at
fine.
9:20 PM.
all in favor?
Hi.
Anyone opposed?
Yes, I'm a favor.
Okay, Barry.
I'm kidding, Joe.